right, welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to go over what is called the OpenAI Playground. Now, we're going to go over what it is, how to find it, and the basics of how to use this to your advantage when you're using this for recruiting, marketing emails. I guess the problem that we're trying to solve with OpenAI Playground as recruiters is how do we not sound alike? If we're all using this tool, how do we all not sound alike? And I actually got this question from a student in the course, so I'm adding this. And yeah, so let's kind of jump in. What is the OpenAI Playground? The OpenAI Playground, you're still in Chat GPT, and it's just, there's a way to get in it. And what you're doing is you're lifting the hood of OpenAPI just a little bit so you can tweak it. What it's meant for is for researchers and people in this field to test and to try to improve the model, or you'll hear train the model, which just means I'm going to share something like my resume, a book, song lyrics, and then I want you to only answer questions based on what I share with you. Okay, and that's how we can start building Chat GPT to really understand who we are, how we talk, so we don't talk the same way. I think a big deal with Chat GPT and AI is don't use it because it's kind of like selling out and you should be writing these yourself. It shouldn't be this robotic speech. So when we talked about building mega prompts, we were addressing the same issue. Let's put these 5 factors into building a good prompt. Act as a role, a recruiter, an attorney. Who is my target audience? Potential candidates for our company. Their title is a software engineer. What is the tone? I want to be casual but professional, or I want to be encouraging and optimistic. What is the task, or how now I call it, what is the instruction to Chat GPT? And what do you want it to do? And then what is the output, right? And so that's just a quick summary of what we learned in mega prompts. But the reason it is relevant to this is because OpenAI lets you save those prompt settings. In other words, you're kind of like making a pre-prompt that no one has access to. No one's going to be able to see it but you. Let's get familiar with the OpenAPI Playground. On the left, you have what's called the system. You're going to give it some instructions, right? And you can save these. And just to kind of show you what you can do is you're going to give it instructions just like we were building a mega prompt. Hey, you're a corporate attorney, and every question that you were asked, you're going to reply with relevant legal risks. If you're asked about hiring, you will answer from the point of view of an attorney looking for risks, how it could legally affect our company. So you kind of put these instructions in, and then you go to what the user is going to type. Now, this is just like Chat GPT. This is sending a message. That's why it's called chat. I'm going to send GPT a message. It's going to respond with a reply. So all we're doing is we're kind of giving it some advanced instructions. So I might say here, give me a 3-point plan for diversity recruiting. Kind of broad, but we're just kind of seeing what it does. We're going to hit submit. I've learned not to leave spaces. Just right there at the end of your sentence, just hit submit. Now, this is the response, and you can read it. But you see, before, if I asked, I'll let it finish. So this is doing exactly what I asked. I put it in the role of a corporate attorney. I gave it some context, and I gave it a task. Act as an attorney. And so the reason I do this is because sometimes I'm sharing something on social media, or I'm going to give advice to a candidate, and I want to run it by legal. And obviously this does not take the place of an attorney, but this was just an example of what we can do. Now, just for fun, I made one called a worried mother, right? So I've given it instructions. You're going to be an over-controlling mother, no matter what topic of the question. It's just going to have this funny response. So I can ask the same thing. Give me a 3-point plan for diversity recruiting. I'm going to hit submit. Now, same question, same model of Chat GPT. No settings have been changed. but my system instructions have changed. Same question now I get. Oh, so now you're concerned about diversity recruiting. It gives you this personality. It's really, really cool. And it's hard to do when you're doing regular Chat GPT because you'd have to type this in the whole way. So what are some cool things you can do with this? Some cool things you can do with this is have Chat GPT learn your writing. So you would get a sample of your writing. If you've done a video, you can use a transcript. If you've got some blog posts or a lot of your emails, kind of cut and paste them, and then you're going to ask ChatGPT, learn my style, my vocabulary, my sentence structure, my tone by looking at these examples. And then once it gives you the answers, you put them in here, and that's the first step of training the OpenAI or ChatGPT playground to talk like you. You're going to see a lot of new products that say, build your own chatbot, or, this will write sales copy. I'm sure there's going to be a recruiting or sourcing bot. I might build one. But all this is first thing you do is you kind of vet your idea here. You test it. And something that we haven't talked about is on the right side, you have a lot of options, right? So number one, you can change the mode. Right now we're going to stay in chat. I don't want this to be too complicated, but I'm going to leave the model into the Chat GPT 3.5 Turbo. Not a big deal unless you're a super advanced user and you're going to try to build your own bot, but this will kind of tell you what it is. There's some help text here. Temperature. What is temperature? Temperature controls the randomness of the answers. So you're going to see here, the lower the number, it's a slide bar, the lower the number 0, it's going to give you exactly what you think it would answer. 1 + 1 = 2. It might repeat itself, but it's going to be very predictable. As we slide it way over here to 2, that's when you're going to start getting a little more creativity in the answers. It may be less factual, but you're definitely going to get it's going to substitute some words that it may not feel comfortable with. It's going to kind of get loose and with its responses. So depending on what you're doing, if it's creative writing, like I said, if you're working with something funny for the team, hey, come up with some funny ideas, or what are some team events we can do? If you want to kind of get results that are above standard, you mess with the temperature. If you want something something very factual, you leave the temperature right around as close as you can to 0. The default setting is 0.7, just so you know. That's kind of what it comes shipped with. So when you're talking to ChatGPT on this normal screen, it's almost always going to be on 0.07. Maximum length is what is the most words or tokens you can get in the answer. And so remember, this is not built to use every day. This is built to build other applications. So you can kind of control it so you don't use up all your tokens. We're not going to talk about stop sequencing. Top P is probably the second most important thing. Temperature was one, and top P is the other. As I have found out by taking prompt engineering courses, you don't want to mess with both of these. You're going to do either or. And this also controls the diversity. It's called nucleus sampling. It tells you, you're telling ChatGPT, I know you know what I'm going to say next, right? I love going to the blank on Fridays. Maybe it's going to say the movies, because ChatGPT knows all the answers. Any NLP, any natural learning program, it's built to just anticipate the next word you say. And you've done that on Google, right? You're going to be like, where do I go? It'll say for lunch. That's kind of like natural learning process. And it just looks at all these people talking on the internet and it says, I know what you're probably going to say. But if you want a new answer, if you want something out of the box, you can adjust this, right? And so that's interesting. I'm not going to go with anything else right now. If you're going to use this tool, you might as well, you can start saving these things, right? Like once you get this right, you hit save, and then you can have one for executive recruiting. You can have one for sourcing. You could even have one for each team you support. Marketing is going to talk different than finance, right? And then you could theoretically kind of save your tone and the context. You could also do it other ways, but that's what OpenAI Playground is. And then once you would be finished, you could just view the code And developers, once they've tuned it, they can take this, and that's how they put it into other software, and they start making their own bots. So I want you to give just one example of something you'll think you'll use every day. Kind of borrow what you've learned from Megaprod. Okay, I'm gonna demonstrate temperature, how temperature can change the answers. Because I know we talked about it by definition, but I know when I was learning it, it was a little fuzzy. So sometimes just showing you is the best way. Now I've changed the settings. So instead of chat, which is what we're used to, you ask it, Chat GPT answers, and Chat GPT can kind of learn from our conversation. We're gonna go back to another model, which is just complete, which means I ask you something, do your best to answer. The only reason I've switched models is because it gives you a cool tool to show you how ChatGPT is thinking once we ask it a question. So we talked about normally the temperature is 0.07, okay? So we're gonna ask it, write a 3-point plan for diversity recruiting, and you can see the answer has color in it. The color tells us is a very predictable response. Okay, out of all the things ChatGPT has learned, it says, I'm pretty positive, percentage-wise, that this is what you meant, right? It's gonna finish my sentence for me. As it turns a little orange, pink to red, red says, I am not that, maybe I've never used these words together. I'm pretty sure it's correct. And that's how we adjust the, do you want it to be very stable, conservative, and give me the answer that I know everyone's looking for? Or do I want to adjust the temperature and have it be a little out of the box, a little creative? And that's what it does. So let's change the temperature to 1.3. At some point, if you adjust it so much to be out of the box, you can't even understand it. It's not even complete English. But now at 1.32 temperature, because we were just at 07, now we see a lot more red, right? So it's gonna change the way ChatGPT answers you. So hopefully that's a good way of understanding what these adjustments